There's wars. There were trade wars. There were conflicts among many nations. And I think that China is doing a very important job of trying to calm things down and collaborate together, all countries, nobody excluded.
This idea of a shared future is very different from dominant hegemonic ideas where we need to have one ideological path.
The importance of this Chinese idea is that it's like a beacon. In the sea, there are waves, there are winds, but still you have this light coming.
Back in March 2013, on his first foreign trip as China's president, Xi Jinping addressed the Moscow State Institute of International Relations and introduced a new vision to the world, building a community with a shared future for humanity. Today, the pursuit of a shared future anchors China's diplomacy. China does not believe that strength must lead to hegemony. Instead, as it grows stronger, it remains committed to mutual respect, cooperation, and peaceful development, working with all nations to shape a new model of international relations.
The idea is so important not only in terms of how we should develop our trade, but also how we should reform the existing international institutions or how we should interact with one another in different regions of the world.
Why did this vision come from China, and how has President Xi advanced it as a long-term endeavor? In my conversations with experts across continents, certain themes emerged with striking consistency, illuminating both the origins of the idea and its growing relevance globally.
Thank you so much.
Actually, this concept is quite deep in Chinese history. The West doesn't have a concept of the world in that basic philosophical sense. It has a concept of the nation state. Its point of departure is always a nation state. Whereas China absolutely has, for many, many centuries, had a concept of the world. So I see the idea of the shared future as part of that tradition.
In the Western tradition, it's been states competing against each other and going to war. East Asia, for many centuries, was a much more peaceful region. China's idea of statecraft is much more about harmony of countries than it is about war between countries. This is what we need. China, by and large, throughout its history, has remained a large, unified state. This is a big difference of the histories of the West and China, and I think it has affected the view of the world as well.
I admire that Chinese throughout history have emphasized peace. And even Art of War is a perfect best manual in history for fighting wars. But Sun Tzu said, the best thing is don't fight. Avoid war if at all possible. And then Lao Tzu, and he said, the use of force is wrong.
Chinese civilization has long valued restraint and defense. Spanning dynasties, the Great War was built to protect, not to conquer. Its traditions also embraced a broader vision that nations could coexist in harmony. On his great voyages, Zheng He brought porcelain, tea, and silk, rather than the sword and the spear, signaling a worldview of exchange. This heritage can be seen in the values China presents to the world today: peace, development, fairness, justice, democracy, and freedom, values rooted in its long civilizational experience and adapted for a modern global context.
Those are fundamental human values, and it's very important that China is repeating those age-old values to the world, and it demonstrates that these are not only ideas, but it is practice. China itself is sticking to those values in practice.
Confucius emphasized a harmonious society. Confucian-based China was really pre-Marxist Marxism. China embraced Marxism so readily because China had a similar philosophy for over 2,000 years. A lot of foreigners think Confucianism is a religion. It's not. Confucius wasn't concerned about the next life. It's a philosophy, social philosophy of how people live together.
According to Marx, we have this feudalism, capitalism, socialism, communism. And in my times in the Communist Party, China shows that socialism is not dead. Socialism was not defeated with the end of the Soviet Union. Socialism has the future, and this is the biggest contribution to the cause of socialism, to the cause of Marxism.
Instead of following the Western path of violence and conquest, Chinese modernization pursues peaceful development and mutual benefit, creating a new form of human civilization and enriching Marxist theories of social progress.
When Marxism first arrived in China after the Russian Revolution, and Mao Zedong said, there's no such thing as abstract Marxism, only concrete Marxism. Mao Zedong thought socialism with Chinese characteristics, and more recently the two integrations. These are all part of this long process of it becoming Chinese Marxism or socialism with Chinese characteristics. And it's still being improved all the time. It's now in a more robust and developed situation than Western political systems. Why? Because Western political systems have been stagnating, fragmenting and declining for 50 years. Xi Jinping 新时代中国特色社会主义. This is the latest and a very substantial development of concrete Marxism in China's particular conditions. The only way to develop it as an international framework is precisely in light of the concrete conditions of each place. And I can say that more and more parties in other countries are learning that it's really important to develop communism, Marxism, in light of the realities of the place in which they're operating. And they have learnt that from the CPC.
This is my first book about Xi Jinping and the China Dream. I think that Chairman Xi Jinping is the greatest Marxist of our times, and that he develops Marxist ideology further. So I hope to live long, and I expect new inventions of Xi Jinping as the great Marxist, as the great Chinese philosopher, as the great global thinker.
Guided by the vision of a shared future for humanity and grounded in China's own development experience, President Xi introduced the Belt and Road Initiative, followed by 4 global initiatives that together form China's approach to addressing our common challenges. Through these efforts, China seeks to work with all nations to build a world of peace, security, and prosperity, one that is open, inclusive, and sustainable.
The Belt and Road was building infrastructure in developing countries, which is the most important thing that they need in order to have development. China is the world's prototypical example for that. So now China can take that expertise to help developing countries. Then it expanded beyond what was called Belt and Road and really became an international project.
I'd highlight that the train from Nairobi to Mombasa and the development of the Mombasa port. I lived in Kenya for 4 years, and so I often drove that road. And in those days, in the late 1990s, the early 2000s, it was a very bumpy road and it took us a long time to get from Nairobi to Mombasa. So to see those transport links shrinking the time and the distance between cities, I think it has a huge impact on the global economy and on global development.
Then the next step, which China had already developed itself, was to layer on top of the infrastructure specific kinds of projects that were generally smaller, like schools, hospitals, sports facilities, farms, health facilities, and that became the first global initiative, which was the Global Development Initiative. What that did was triggered the idea that a global initiative is an overarching strategic framework by which China can engage with the world. The global development issue began to say, here are some of the ways that we can contribute to making this international community for humanity. And then the second one immediately came thereafter, and the Global Security Initiative was put forth as a way to deal with disputes and confrontations through dialogue, to be simple about it. And then the momentum continued. The Global Civilization Initiative dealt with the integration of culture and people. Then finally, the Global Governance Initiative. And so that really, in my view, is a complete set. And that as a totality is the strategic, structural way to achieve the goal, which is the community with a shared future for all humanity.
This Chinese proposal is something that changed the mindset of different national leaders, that changed the perception of the world we're living in.
China is the mature leader in the world today in terms of leading collaboration and peace and trade and friendship.
站在这里回顾历史，我仿佛听到了山间回荡的声声驼铃。
We actually had a visiting scholar who's like, the Silk Road was announced in Astana in Kazakhstan, and one of the professors was like, no, here at the university. So it's a sense of like pride.
In your view, what has been the most underrated impact of the BRI on Kazakhstan, something that numbers alone cannot reveal?
Ooh. Maybe sort of a changing internationalization of and globalization of people. The BRI had an impact on the ability of people here to be more global.
Или отдельной культуры, но также еще и гражданами глобальной цивилизации, глобального информационного пространства.
Belt and Road is proving that this bigger concept of future of mankind is right. It's not only a lighthouse, it's also the technology, it's practical technology of reaching it.
History rarely reveals its meaning in the moment, but as China's ideas are tested in practice, they're steadily restoring confidence that choice exists, cooperation works, and a shared future can be built.
He promised to send some Chinese books to SNU. So next year, thousands of Chinese books arrived. So we made Mr. President Xi Jinping Library and our SNU library. The more I study and learn about this Korea, China, US triangle and history, the more I realize, in a way, it's not only 80 years of liberal international order, but also 400 or 500 years of Western rule international order is kind of fading away.
We used to believe in the Western-oriented world. Our country was trying to adapt and fit into different Western-led institutions, and as a result, we were complete losers. Russia learned to become sovereign, to make our own decisions and rely only on ourselves. And this is exactly what all countries are, in a certain way, going through in every single isolated case.
I think one of the key points here in building a shared future for mankind is the idea that every development model must suit the local environment. Everybody gets to choose their own development path, and I think that's so important. And in the past, this has not been true. It's been, you do it our way or you just don't get a development. Now, China does not do that.
there's a great desire among the majority of states to see new ways of doing things in international relations and a more inclusive global development model. A more inclusive approach that focuses on development, interdependence, infrastructure support is just going to naturally win over the hearts and minds of many countries around the world.
China not only says, China does. If China's vision of civilization is good for 1.4 billion people, it might be useful for other billions of people.
Building a shared future for mankind, somebody has to set the example, and China provides that model, and it's providing stability in a world of instability.